This is a Dragon Blazer production.
This is Unsolved Comedy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Unsolved Comedies. I'm your host, as always, Kezaya, and our co-host over here,
Stephen.
There we go. You also might hear the rattling of cats' collars. We're in the living room, which is not our normal setup, so the cats are going to be running around like crazy people because they can't just let us do our job.
Actually, two of them are sleeping.
We'll see. We'll see if it stays that way.
One's watching outside, the other one looks like he's sleeping.
All right. So, today's case is actually one that I like a lot. I don't know. I hate saying that about these cases because it's just so fucked up to say I like this case. But this case has a lot of similarities to another case that I want to cover. I mentioned it last week, the Alyssa Attorney case. If you guys, again, could share this podcast so that we can get more listens, so that we can get an interview with Sarah Turney, we would really appreciate it. But let me jump over to the first portion of our podcast. Stephen, what did you think of the coverage of this case?
I mean, that woman's an evil bitch.
I mean, to put it bluntly, yes, she is.
That's how I feel about this case. She seems like an evil bitch. I do not like her at all.
First of all, her name is Sandy, and unless it's Sandy from Greece, you should never trust a woman named Sandy. No, I'm just kidding.
Jeez. Well, I apologize to all the Sandy listeners of this podcast.
I'm just kidding. It's a joke. I have lots of friends that are called Sandy. I just, it was a funny. I was trying to make a funny. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Just alienating all Sandys.
You shouldn't trust anybody named Kezaya either. I'm fucking crazy. I don't understand.
You're literally the only person I know named Kezaya.
Exactly. Fucking exactly. Don't trust me. I'm fucking nuts.
You're not wrong.
Okay, guys. So, in this case, just so you guys are aware, we do have a recording that we're playing from the Unsolved Mysteries episode because we actually couldn't find this tape anywhere else, but it's like a confession tape. So we figured that would be something good to include in our little episode over here. So let's get to talking about the case. The case that we're covering today is the case of Lena Chapman, or Chapin. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, unfortunately. I'm going to say it's Lena Chapin, though, because that's how I've seen it spelled, is Chapin.
Yes.
Lena was the second oldest of 6 girls. She had 6 sisters. Her sisters' names were Brandy, who was the oldest, then Lena. We have Robin, Rachel, Jenny, and Rosie. Those are her 5 sisters. And her mother's name was Sandy. Now, they don't talk about their father or their fathers in this Unsolved Mysteries episode, but it would be safe to assume that the girls have different dads because what we learn about Sandy in this episode is that she's hella promiscuous. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is when you're married to a guy and you get tired of that guy, so you decide to go fuck his brother, and then you get tired of his brother, so you kill him, and then...
Here at Unsolved Comedies, we fully support, if you want to just bang dudes, by all means. I don't believe that there should be a...
There's no such thing as slut-shaming on this show,
But when you're banging people's brothers,
while you're married to them,
we will slut shame. We will slut shame. You're
we
a whore.
Slut shame cheaters. That's what we do. We slut shame cheaters. But all the other girls that want to just fuck around, you guys are cool.
Stay single. Go bang as many people as you want. Practice safe sex. Whatever.
But don't.
We're not going to slut shame you for wanting to be promiscuous.
But we're going to slut shame you if you're a cheater.
If you're a cheater and you murder people, we're going to slut shame you. I'm sorry. That's how it is.
Cheating murderers get the slut shame here on this show.
That's right.
Okay. So we've talked about the sisters. Brandy, like I said, is the oldest, and Robin is the middle child. She is younger than Lena, but older than the other three. So, those are like the oldest three. Which is probably why we see most of them in this episode, because they would have been old enough to remember everything that happened.
Yeah, we really don't talk to any of the other sisters.
There is one person that's completely unidentified that could be one of the sisters. The way that she speaks, like the other two sisters, leads me to believe that she might be one of the other sisters.
Well, she says that it's her mom, but we never caught her name.
It's either Robin or one of the other sisters that doesn't want her name released. We're not sure which at this point, but we know it's one of those two. The first thing that we hear about Lena is that Sandy claims that when she went missing, she actually just went to Florida with some guy, which, according to Brandy, didn't happen. She said there's no way it could have happened. She had a son, and she left her son here. And she loved her son very dearly, so it's highly unlikely that she just left her son to go be with this guy in Florida.
Yeah, I don't think she went to Florida at all. No.
No, she didn't.
She didn't go to Florida.
I mean, she might have gone there for like a vacation.
She might have went to Florida because her mom fed her to alligators, but
she did the new Carol Baskins, my guy.
That's right.
Fuck the tigers, man. Get the alligators.
The killer whore.
Sorry. We're done. I promise.
No.
So, Robin Shoemake and Brandy Peterson are the two sisters that we hear a lot from in this episode. They are very vocal and outspoken about their sister's disappearance. They are 100% sure their mother did something to their sister. So, we also have Detective Rich Letchworth, who is the county sheriff, or he was a detective for the county for the Dent County Sheriff's Office, which is the original sheriff's office that investigated Gary, her stepfather's disappearance, and also had a hand in investigating Lena's disappearance, if I'm not wrong. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Don't come for me. Honestly. And then we also have Josh Delman, who is a friend of Lena's. We don't hear from him very often, but we do hear from him, so I thought I would put his name in there. So when Brandy talks to Detective Letchworth, she says that Lena's stuff got left out on the back porch until it was basically ruined, and her son Coulter was left behind. And according to the detective, that does not sound like somebody who wanted to move to Florida. That sounds like somebody that was murdered, and the evidence was to be gotten rid of. We also know that Lena was very positive. She had a very positive attitude, and she was a very bubbly person, and she spoke really fast, which I get that. I tend to be a very bubbly person. I tend to be a very fast talker, and I try to have a positive attitude. And I know that people like me are often targets because we don't look for the bad in the world. We tend to try to look for the good. Would you agree? Sure. Would that be a reason for somebody to be a target?
Yeah, I can see that.
So they moved around a lot.
That's why she's a target in here, but
well, she's not a target in this because of that. No, but I'm just saying it is a reason to be a target. So they moved around a lot. Like I said, Sandy was very promiscuous, was always fucking around with different guys, which was fine.
Including brothers.
Except for when she was married to these men, and she would then go have an affair with somebody else, and it was like a pattern for her. Like, she never, like, stayed married to a guy.
Seems like it was about every 3 years.
About every 2 to 3 years, yeah, you're right.
Except for with one.
She would get bored and just decide to, like, leave, or she would decide to, like, start fucking some other guy, in some cases family members, and it was just bad. It was just, like, even the girls say that the tension was very high in their household when they were kids, which I could totally understand. Like, if I was a child and my parents were, like, always every 3 years having an affair, or one of my parents was always every 3 years having an affair, it would be super difficult and super high tension.
Especially with 6 kids, it's gotta suck.
Oh yeah, because
you gotta have a new stepdad every 3 years.
Oh yeah, every 3 years. So Sandy's second husband's name was Albert McLow. I say it's McLow. Don't know. Don't quote me on that. Don't come for me. Might be pronouncing that wrong. He says that Sandy was a very good talker. Very good talker. She could get someone to do anything that she wanted them to do.
Including brothers of your husband.
Oh, yeah. She was a very, very good talker, very charismatic. He says that they got married pretty quickly after they started dating, and that the first 2 years were super good. Until he found out that Sandy had been fucking his brother Gary behind the scenes. And Albert says that him and Gary got into this fist fight because he was super pissed.
I wonder why.
He was like, "That's my wife, man. You can't just fuck her." And Gary was like, "But I want to fuck her. I would like to be her husband." Like, it was just a weird thing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I know they say Gary is a good guy in here, and I mean, sure, maybe he was decent to an extent, but to fuck your brother's wife
there's
is
a difference. There's a difference.
Pretty dark road there.
There's a difference between being a good person in relationships and just being a good person. I've met plenty of people that are wonderful people, but I would feel horrible for anybody that was in a relationship with them because they don't know how to commit. They don't know how to, like, be with one person. So just because
I think it's
you make poor sexual or relationship or romantic decisions does not make you a bad person. It just means you're a bad relationship person.
I think there's a universal rule that you don't fuck your brother's wife. I mean
that is fair.
That kind of lowers your "I'm a good person" status in my book.
The girls seemed to love him. The girls were very fond.
Maybe he was a good dad. Sure.
The girls were very fond of both the McLow brothers. They were very fond of Albert. And then after Albert and Sandy got divorced and Sandy married Gary, the girls were very fond of Gary as well. According to the girls, Gary decided that he was going to move the girls and his new wife, Sandy, up to his house in Missouri. They had been living in Arkansas with Albert, and he moved them back to Missouri, which is the state that they were born in, to his house, which had, like, a farm and a whole bunch of animals, and it was on, like, some acres of land, and it had fields, and it was, you know, a nice place probably for kids to grow up.
You know, if we didn't get the couple bits of crucial evidence, I would not blame Albert whatsoever if he was the one that killed Gary, and I wouldn't blame him.
So here's a timeline a little bit. November 17th, 1994, Albert and Sandy get married, and they move to Arkansas, which is where Albert's living at the time. And 2 years later, on May 22nd, 1996, Sandy leaves Albert for Gary. So, like I said, about every 2 years, she has to do something different. She's just not into it anymore.
You mean do someone different?
Oh, God. We hear from one of...
Call it what it is.
We hear from one of Gary's friends, Jeff Allen. Gary gave the girls chores, and then when they finished their chores, he would take them out for ice cream. So, sounds like a pretty good dad.
Sounds like he's buying their love.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that.
How rough had it be for those 6 girls be like, oh, hi, uncle, I'm sorry, stepdad, or like...
I mean, it's not like he was uncle. It's not like he was uncle for very long. He was uncle for 2 years.
2 years before he started banging, uncle started banging your mom.
I mean, to be fair, like I said, it's a really fucked up situation, guys.
Yeah,
like,
a little bit.
This is the only part of the case that we can make fun of at all because all the rest of it is so fucking heinous.
I don't know. We'll see where we
So I will not be making any jokes on it. So if you hear us making jokes on this for the rest of the podcast, cut us some slack because once we let you guys in on a little bit of shit, you're going to realize this is the only thing we have to make jokes about because everything else is so horrible.
So
Brandy says...
This is pretty horrible, too.
It's not murder horrible. It's not murder your own daughter horrible.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's bad. So Brandy says that she really liked Gary, that Gary was a really good stepfather, and that she feels like he taught her how to be a good woman. He taught the girls independence, which is very important for young girls. Because she said that it taught her she didn't need to depend on a man. She didn't need to be like her mother, who was always after some guy to take care of her. She didn't need to be like that. She could take care of herself. And Brandy says that that's probably the most important thing that Gary taught them. We hear from Andrew Sheely, who is a reporter for the Salem News, which I guess is the city that they lived in, Missouri. And she said that Sandy jumps from man to man, every 2 years just about. She gets bored and like basically just information that we already know. It's something that they found out during their investigation and the police also found out during their investigation.
She stays a little longer with men that help her murder people.
Yes. I think that's actually the longest guy that she was with was a man that helped her murder people.
Allegedly.
But whatever. So Sandy meets Chris Klemp about 2 years after she marries Gary. And he has money, which is something that Sandy wants. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 3 years after she marries Gary. So Sandy marries Gary. And so we can see, I can't remember what month it was that it was May 22nd. So they dated for about 7 months before they got married in December. And then 3 years after that, in March of 1999, they don't have a specific date, but in March of 1999, Sandy starts an affair with this guy called Chris Klemp that she met. We've talked about him already. He had money. You know, money is what she needed. Apparently all she needed was money and dick, and she was a happy girl.
I mean, that can be a lot of women, actually. Or men. I mean, whatever.
She's generalizing. You're generalizing.
I will say, they talk about how Gary's stepdaughters, or Sandy's daughters, talk about how, it was Gary's friend. I apologize. Gary's friend was talking about how Gary was really hurt and broken up about her cheating. You banged your brother's wife. What did you expect?
I mean, yeah. What do you expect? You
thought this woman was going to be faithful to you?
Wait a minute. That is a really good point. You thought that she was going to just cheat on your brother with you, but then she was going to decide that you were all she needed in life and she was going to be faithful to you for the rest of forever. Like, you thought, and not to speak ill of the dead, but you thought that really?
Your dick was magical?
Your dick was just that type of magic?
This penis shall save her from ever cheating again.
Oh, Jesus.
Magical dick.
Magical dick.
Okay, carry on. Sorry.
Okay. Now that we're done talking about magical dicks, I'm sorry, guys. But we find out from Robin that Chris was kind of a twig compared to Gary, which would explain what we find out later was that Chris was super fond of guns. So Richard Anderson, who is Gary's friend and attorney, says that Sandy had a checkbook and it ended up being Gary's checkbook. So Sandy stole Gary's checkbook and wrote a bunch of bad checks and got Gary arrested. And at this point is when Gary says, I'm going to have to file for divorce. The cheating, I think he was kind of like, I kind of knew she was like this, so I might just overlook it. We might have to work on our marriage. You know, we might have to work on that. But I think when he was like, oh man, she just got me arrested and she's been stealing my money, I think it's time to part ways. But, you know, it is what it is.
I mean, sure.
So far, what do you think of Sandy? Let's just, you know, what do you think of Sandy?
Well, she hasn't found a magical dick yet. I can't say that I'm a fan.
I mean, like, if you didn't have the information that you have for later into the case, what would you think of her if you just didn't know that?
Well, you think hearing that she banged some dude's her husband's brother and all this, that I would be like, she seems like an all right woman.
Well,
She's
no.
okay. This is without the murder. Without killing her daughter, she sounds like a bitch. I am not a fan of this woman as of right now in this story. Without knowing the rest, I am not a fan of this woman.
I mean, okay, that's definitely fair to say, I guess.
What do you want me to say? Sure, maybe she loves her kids, but not this one.
She did not love her fucking children. At some point, and this is just me, as a mother, you have to make the decision to do what's right for your kids and not what's right for your pussy and your hormones.
That was sarcasm. Sorry. I'm not saying that. I wasn't saying she loves her. I mean, she might to an extent, but
she murdered her daughter. She does not love her children. Fuck off. We're breaking into theories already, guys. I am so sorry.
I am not defending her in the slightest. That was a joke.
Okay.
I said, maybe she loves her kids. Maybe, but not one of them.
Oh, but not one of them? Oh, shit, Stephen. Okay, so Gary decides that he's going to file for divorce. He's like, okay, the cheating was one thing, but this bitch has gone off the deep end thinking she can take my money, right? Which is, you know, fair to fucking say. So Gary then goes missing. Decides he's going to file for divorce, and then he's just gone, right? He goes missing on May 11th, 1999, 2 months after the affair with Chris starts. And Albert notices Gary missing at work. And Albert said that he never missed work. He couldn't afford to miss work. They had all these animals. They had 6 girls. He had daughters that he was paying child support for. Like, he couldn't afford to miss work. He didn't have the money to miss work. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't go to a shift, you don't get paid for it, right? So, he couldn't afford to miss work. And Josh Allen actually says that he knew when he didn't show up to work that they were looking for Gary's body. That they weren't looking for Gary as, like, a person still alive. They were looking for Gary's dead body because he said that that's the only reason he wouldn't have come to work is if he was dead.
Yeah, good assumption. Now, I am curious, okay? This is what I'm curious about. I 100% believe this woman and her boyfriend or one of them killed. 100% believe they killed Gary. I'm curious why.
Life insurance money. I mean, they don't mention life insurance money, but according to the girls, they moved from this place that used to be Gary's house. Literally in August of the year that Gary went missing, they moved from the house that Gary lived in with them to St. Louis, and they stay in St. Louis until the next summer, and then they move to a whole other town.
Now, here's the counter to that, though. They specifically mentioned that this Chris Klemp dude does have money. So, do they really need Like, is that really a big enough motivator to murder Gary?
I don't know.
I think there has to be something other than life insurance to why she would kill.
I think that she knew he was going to press charges for the whole
Did they say that?
the whole bad credit thing. No, but if somebody steals my credit or my checks and makes me look bad for writing bad checks, I'm sure as shit gonna press charges, even if it was my wife. You know, and he said he was filing for divorce. So who's to say?
Yeah, he was filing for divorce. It wasn't like he was trying to stay with her. So there goes away the motive of I can't get rid of him, so I got to get rid of him. Life insurance doesn't seem to be a factor because she got with this guy who apparently has good money.
It was his family's money, though.
Greedy.
It was his family's money, though. Maybe he only got a little bit every month, or maybe he got like an allowance. You know, they don't really go into it.
If
they just
she
said
went
that it
to
was
this
his
guy
family's
because
money.
of his money, he's well off. So that kind of takes away life insurance. I mean, sure, it's possible she was greedy and she wanted life insurance, but I feel like there's something we don't know that is the reason she killed Gary. I think there's a reason. Now, there's motive all over the place to why she would have killed her daughter. But when it comes to Gary, there doesn't seem to be a clear-cut motive, and I'm curious about that.
I don't know. Like I said, there could always be something that we don't know about, something that... Because we never hear from Sandy in this whole Unsolved Mysteries case. We never hear from Chris.
Surprise, surprise, they refuse to be interviewed. Oh, I don't know if I want to be on this episode where everybody thinks we did it.
Literally.
And probably did do it. They
literally probably did. But anyway, Gary goes missing. And he's reported missing by a coworker. A coworker. His wife doesn't report him missing. He's been gone for 2 days. And Brian Martin, who is the investigator, or one of the investigators for Gary's case, he says that he goes to Gary's house to try to find him because somebody requested a wellness check, which is reasonable. You know, he's at work every day and then he just doesn't show one day. Reason for a wellness check, at least in my opinion. And so he goes to Gary's house and he says that he found one of the cows out. And he was going to put the cow away when Sandy and Lena pull up in the truck. And they pull up to the house and he's like, "Ma'am, is there anything going on that you would like to tell me?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I probably should tell you that my husband's been missing for 2 days. He went to Diamond to go buy a fighting rooster and since then has not returned." Okay, first of all, fighting roosters is illegal. So I don't know.
This is what you want to take out of this?
I don't know why I don't know why that was her story. Like, I don't understand. Maybe it was to defame his character.
Yeah, probably make him sound like a shitty person. But yeah, he went to go fight roosters. He deserves to die.
He deserves to die. I can't. Literally fighting roosters, man. But it is illegal, so I don't know why that was her story. Because we find out later that night, she tells the girls, Lena, who we find out later, already knows what happens. The cops do ask her if she wants to file a missing persons report, and she's like, "Yeah, I guess I should do that." Like, she's so unenthusiastic about this, which is fucking disgusting, okay?
I mean, how do you want her to react if she murdered him?
I mean, you could at least fake it. Like,
fake it till you make it.
Honestly, if a guy that killed his children and his pregnant wife, Chris Watts, can fake it better than this bitch, she could have faked it better. That's all I'm saying is she could have faked it better.
Well, she already used the, you went to see Fighting Roosters. Would you like this guy? He seems like a douche.
Yes, because fighting roosters is such a douche move. Like, yeah, it's illegal. Yeah, it's animal cruelty, but I don't think that makes somebody, like, a horrible person because chickens are used for food anyway, so they're just going to be slaughtered.
My point is I think that's the reason she brought it up. Destroy his character. Make him sound like a terrible person.
But that's where the defamation of character stops. It's not like she went on and she was like, "Oh, he was cheating on me. Oh, he was doing this. Oh, he was beating my children. No, she literally just said that he went to go buy a fighting rooster.
You know what? Fair.
That's it. She stopped the buck there if she was really trying to defend his character.
I don't know how to defend this woman. She's a bitch.
So the cops ask her, they're like, hey, would you like to file a missing persons report? And she's like, yeah, I should probably do that. Yeah. I guess. Oh, no, geez, it's going to take time. And they've searched the house. They get a search warrant a few days later, and they search the house, and Sandy's pissed that they get a search warrant and search her house. Because 2 days after the investigation, Chris moves in, right? So at this point, they're searching the house. Chris is already in the house, right? There's no clothes, and there's no property that show that Gary ever even lived there. So
he was a ghost. He never existed.
He literally never existed. Like, they took all of his shit out of the house.